Let me start by clearing the air. This isn't about deception. This is about dignity. See, in every healthy relationship, there's a boundary line, not a wall, but a line, a sacred space where self-respect lives. And too often, women are told they must give everything, reveal everything, carry everything. But today, I want to speak directly to the women and to the men who love them with truth, clarity, and care. There are some things a woman must never fully hand over, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Let me tell you something that might feel a little uncomfortable at first, but it's truth and it matters. A woman must never hand over her self-worth to a man, not a boyfriend, not a husband, not a man she's loved for years. No one. Because here's the truth, your worth isn't a product of how he sees you. It existed long before he walked in, and it better exist long after he leaves, if he ever does. That sense of who you are, what you deserve, and what you're capable of, that's not up for negotiation. And the moment you make it negotiable, you give someone else the power to rewrite your identity. I've seen this play out too many times. A woman falls in love. She opens herself up. She gives and gives and gives her time, her energy, her loyalty, even her body. And slowly, sometimes without even realizing it, she starts measuring her value by how much attention he gives her, by how often he calls, by whether or not he compliments her, whether he sees her the way she hopes to be seen. But here's the thing, a good relationship should amplify your worth, not become the source of it. If your confidence is riding on whether he texts you back, that's not love, that's dependency. And there's a difference. One builds you up. The other breaks you down slowly without making a sound. Now, I'm not saying don't be vulnerable. I'm not saying be guarded or cold or closed off. I'm saying stay rooted. Know who you are before you let someone else speak into your life. Because if you don't know who you are, anyone can come along and tell you. And if that person is wounded, insecure, or immature, they'll speak from their wounds, not your truth. A woman who knows her worth doesn't crumble when he's distant. She doesn't chase when he pulls away. She doesn't beg for attention because she knows her presence is valuable. She knows love is not supposed to be earned by sacrifice. It's supposed to be honored by presence. And if she's not being honored, she knows how to step back, not shrink down. You see, men often test boundaries, not always on purpose, but out of habit, conditioning ego. And if the first thing he sees is that your identity is in his hands, he'll treat it with the same care or carelessness that he treats his own. That's dangerous, because if he's not whole and you hand him the key to your self-worth, he'll project his brokenness onto you. And you'll start questioning things that were never in question before he showed up. So you have to guard that part of you, not hide it, but guard it. A man should earn access to your soul, not because you're difficult or hard to love, but because you're aware that not everyone is equipped to handle that kind of access. That's not pride. That's wisdom. That's maturity. Let me ask you something. What would change if you didn't need him to tell you you're enough? What would shift in your life if you didn't wait for his validation to feel confident? What kind of decisions would you make? How many things would you stop tolerating? That's where real power lives. You don't have to broadcast your worth. You don't have to explain it. You live it in how you walk, how you talk, how you say no, how you say yes, in the way you carry yourself, even when you're not being watched. That's what tells the world what you believe about yourself. And when a man sees that, really sees that, it either wakes him up or makes him walk away. And either way, that's a win for you. Because the only man who belongs in your life is the one who sees your worth and mirrors it, not one who needs to be convinced. Never hand over the pen that writes your value. Let him earn the right to read it. There's this idea that when you love someone, you're supposed to give them everything, every feeling, every thought, every breakdown, every bruise, every corner of your heart. And while openness is important, while vulnerability builds intimacy, let me be clear, a woman should never surrender full control of her emotional core to a man. Ever. Because your emotions are yours. They are not his to manage, control, or fix. And the moment you start out sourcing your peace to someone else, you start giving away the most powerful part of you. Too many women are told, either directly or indirectly, that being in a relationship means laying all your emotions at a man's feet, hoping he'll handle them right, hoping he'll understand every mood, hold space for every hurt, and somehow never misuse the weight you've placed in his hands. But let me ask you, what happens when he can't? What happens when he doesn't know what to do with your storm? What happens when he makes your feelings about him? You start doubting yourself. You start shrinking. You start apologizing for how you feel instead of standing in it with strength and self-awareness. A woman should absolutely express her feelings. She should absolutely expect to be heard. But her emotional well-being should never depend on how well he reacts. That's not healthy. That's dangerous. Because the minute he becomes the thermostat for your inner world, you're no longer living in your truth. You're living in his response. Sometimes he won't understand. Sometimes he'll pull back when you need him to lean in. And if you've built your whole emotional stability on his ability to be there every single time, you're going to crash hard. That doesn't mean you isolate. It doesn't mean you bottle things up. What it means is you create an internal system, one rooted in emotional maturity, that allows you to check in with yourself before checking in with him. You know how to process, how to pause, how to name what you feel without needing someone else to validate it for it to feel real. Let me say that again. You do not need someone else to validate your feelings in order for them to be real. You are allowed to have emotions that are misunderstood. You are allowed to feel something deeply and not have to explain it into pieces to get permission to keep feeling it. And you are absolutely allowed to keep some of those emotions close to your chest, not as a way to hide, but as a way to protect the parts of you that are still healing. When a man sees that you've got emotional depth, and emotional discipline, that's powerful. When he sees that you can stand in your own feelings without needing him to rescue you or rewrite the narrative, that's respect. That doesn't make you cold. That doesn't make you distant. That makes you grounded. You teach people how to treat your emotions by how you treat them first. If you ignore them, he'll ignore them. If you weaponize them, he'll defend himself instead of showing up for you. But if you hold your emotions with honesty, clarity, and grace, he'll either rise to meet you there or he'll remove himself. And again, either way, that's a win. We don't talk about this enough. We romanticize emotional transparency like it's always the goal. But transparency without discernment, that's exposure. That's giving too much too fast and hoping someone else has the emotional capacity you haven't even confirmed. That's not love. That's gambling. So yes, open up. Share your heart, invite him in, but don't hand him the blueprint and the power switch and hope he doesn't flip the wrong circuit. Keep that rooted inside you. That's your emotional center, your anchor, your balance, and nobody gets to own that but you. Because the strongest love isn't built on dependency. It's built on interdependence, where you bring your whole emotional self to the table, and so does he. Where you both have a voice, where you both take responsibility for your peace. And if he can't hold space for your feelings without making it about his comfort, that tells you something. That's not a failure. That's information. You are not too much. You just might be too emotionally rich for someone emotionally poor. There's something sacred about a woman's dreams. I'm not talking about fantasies or wishful thinking. I'm talking about those quiet visions she carries in her chest, the goals, the ambitions, the passions that give her life meaning beyond her roles, beyond what she does for others. And no matter how deep a relationship gets, no matter how much love is on the table, a woman must never feel she has to give those up just to keep a man. What she wants for her life, for her growth, for her purpose, that is not optional. That doesn't disappear because a relationship begins. And yet, how many women have silenced their own voice to keep the peace? How many have pressed pause on their goals because they didn't want to rock the boat or outgrow the man standing next to them? Too many. It usually starts small. She takes on his schedule, his needs, his plans. She supports his business, his hustle, his goals. And at first, it feels like love. It feels like partnership. But over time, she starts adjusting, then bending, and before long, shrinking. She loses touch with that fire that once burned so clearly inside her. The dream that once kept her up at night now feels like a burden she's too afraid to carry alone. Especially if the man she's with doesn't see it, support it, or worse, feels threatened by it. Let's be real here. Not every man is ready for a woman with a vision, because a woman with direction doesn't just follow. She builds, she leads, she disrupts. And if a man is insecure, if he's used to being the sun in every room, her light will make him uncomfortable. But that's not a reason for her to dim it. That's a reason for her to keep it shining, because it's the right kind of discomfort. The kind that separates boys from men. Real men don't shrink when a